welcome to this workshop video about my ultimate drill press platform. My name is Dennis and I am from Hongdui. And I'm probably not the first to use the phrase ultimate for something they made, in this case my drill press table, but it has some unique features you do not see regularly or not at all, and those features make all the differences for me. So this is definitely my ultimate drill press platform. And in this video I will explain why, because I'm convinced you will also love it for the same reasons. I have a Yet GDP50 and this is one of the few drill presses made for woodworkers, which means it has a bigger drill press platform of its own. But I think building a drill press platform yourself is always beneficial. Regardless of the platform, what I like about my drill press is the way I integrated it into my side workbench. And although this drill press weighs around 80 kg, it blends easily into my workshop and does not feel oversized. The footprint is tiny and the place next and above my mitre station is a perfect spot. And I had this also in my former workshop and now again in my new workshop. And if I have to do it again, I would build it again this way. In other words, I like it very much. So I wanted to optimize my drill press platform because there was some room for improvement. And this is my third version of it. And this one feels like worth being called Ultimate Drill Press Platform. First, I think it looks incredible. And for me, the practical point when I design something is always leading. But when that is covered, I like to spend some extra time to make it interesting and beautiful. Totally unnecessary from a practical point of view, but how much more satisfying it is when a design works out great. How much more joy it is to make something beautiful instead of just practical and as fast as possible. One material I use throughout my entire workshop is this black material. And it is what we called full colored black MDF. And it is something similar like a Velcro mat, but much more affordable. And it's a shame it's not available in all countries, but it is reasonably affordable in the Netherlands. It is much denser than regular MDF, and because of this it also weighs much more. And it is dense enough to get perfectly clean edges. With some sanding and oil you get lovely edges that looks almost the same as the top. I use Rubio monocoat oil because this works fast and gives a beautiful matte finish. Although instead of one coat I sand it in between, especially the edges with a 300 paper, and give it an extra layer. But from a practical point of view I like it even more than the looks. The connection of the fans at the side is the most significant difference from a regular drill press station. And besides the fact that it may be a little more challenging to make, I only see benefits from this way of connecting the fans. You still need two connections to make it stable, but having that reference from the side is essential. To show you the benefits, I mounted the fans the ordinary way. And one disadvantage of this way of connecting your fans is that there'll always be some play. It's not a problem initially when the fence is not mounted straight to the platform. You can still get a perfect line of holes, even when you change the angle somewhat. The problem exists when you want to make multiple rows of holes that have to be in line. And you can see that depending on the fence play, there's already a deviation of a few millimeters. So depending on which position you screw your fence in place, there will be more or less deviation. And because my fence is connected to the side, there will always be a constant reference. And when my fence is not at the right angle, it changes automatically as soon as you tighten it. So when I set up my fence and flip stops for a series of holes at one side, it is great that I only have to focus on placing my fence at the right height, because my flip stops will always be aligned perfectly with the first row. And with an ordinary fence it is not guaranteed, because when you accidentally change the angle of the fence, the second row will be out of line. And this problem will not occur with my fence, because the sides will always be in a fixed position. Especially when you work with a scale on your fence to set up your drill press, you have to remember that this will only work when your fence is always at the exact same position. That said, it's easier and more accurate to set up your drill press with a laser or just the tip of your drill bit. My Yet drill press does have a laser, and depending on the laser's position you must remember that the fence will not be in the way of the laser beam. This is why I made my fence as low as possible, and this way the laser will be visible even when you have to drill a hole close to the fence. And another advantage of a low fence is that the drill press chuck will not contact the fence. Although my table is 50 centimeters wide, the fence measures 100 centimeters, and this allows me to place multiple flipstops and increase the range of holes I can handle with one setup. Speaking of flipstops, I use these black flipstops from Banggood. And to be honest, they are a bit too big for a drill press fence, and I previously used the smaller ones, but returned to these black flipstops because they are the most stable. I quickly want to inform you about my website www.hookedonwood.online. Here you can find all my shop improvement videos, including free plans, but also a ranking among all the products I tested with direct links to the products. So visit www.hookedonwood.online. Thank you. As an insert to create clean holes, I use a round insert this time. And turning this insert allows me to use it much more efficiently than if I would make it square. To make this possible, I created a template with a laser engraver. And the new laser engravers are becoming increasingly powerful, to the point where you can use them very effectively to create templates. In fact, without this laser I probably would make it square again. And I'm currently testing some 10 and 20 watt laser engravers and will show them in my next China tool video. For the insert I could also use my template. And as a result, not only did my laser make the job very easy, but it also fits very tight into my platform. And the insert is aligned perfectly with the platform's top, and to ensure that it stays perfectly aligned, I made some slots at the bottom of the insert hole. So when dust or chips are accumulating, I just have to turn it around to align it again. Although I connect my fence to the side, I do have two miter slots for some hold down clamps. And I reviewed almost all available hold down clamps in one of my China tool series. And these hold down clamps were not only the most affordable, but for a drill press table, simply the best choice. And the last important thing for me is dust extraction. And my goal was to use my drill press practically dust free in all situations. So I ended up with a very cheap and straightforward system of some PVC pipes. And how simple this may seem, there's a lot of thinking and try and error behind this. And ultimately, the only way I could operate my drill press dust free in any situations without compromising the use of multiple flipstops. Integrating the dust collection into the fence would be a great solution, but the situation in which this would actually work are too limited. When a piece of wood is too thick, this will block the suction, and when you want to drill a hole a bit from the edge, it will not work optimally either. So a solution from behind with something flexible like this was my viewing angle for some time. But I could not use my flipstop freely this way. So it had to come from the side, high enough that my flip stops could go underneath it, and flexible enough to use on every height, and independently from the fence position. So this combination of PVC pipes does it for me. And the base should have the ability to turn. This way you can fold it out of the way for better access or when you do not use it. The flexibility comes from these three pieces of 45 degrees in between. Turning them allows you to create the optimum height and position close to the drill bit. And this way I have to say 95% of the use of my drill press is practically dust free. So these features make it my ultimate drill press platform. Especially the fence system, which makes it superior to the more commonly used fences in my opinion. I filmed the whole process of making this drill press table, and if you think it's interesting to watch this, just leave a short note in the comments you think this is a good idea. When there's enough interest in this how to build video, I will start editing and upload it soon. Well, we have already come to the end of this video. I hope you liked it. And of course, there is a reason I call it my ultimate drill press table, because it will all depend on the work you do. However, I think the design could fit an average user. So I hope I have give you some inspiration and exciting ideas you could implement in your future drill press table. And if you plan to do this, have fun making it. Thank you for watching, have a nice day, and well, we see each other next time.